When we demand our rights, we cease demanding of ourselves to be true to why we exist. We must live by our responsibilities, not our rights. Doing good is built on the foundation of the highest good of another. That's morality and love. My highest good for you is to live Christ, no matter what injustice arises.
Thanks for joining us on Life Journeys, a podcast about thriving through the worst pain that life brings. With global initiatives threatening big changes to our way of life, we're going to need to activate Jesus' words about mountain-moving faith. Words That Work is the ongoing series on Life Journeys that is rooted in releasing revelational words of faith that will work every time and with everyone. It's about moving the mountains that keep us from the presence and goodness of God. It's about defining our life purpose and identity through encountering Him until we have the power to move the obstacles that are destroying our liberty and hope.
It's impossible to be a whole, healthy, peace-filled human being without accepting the responsibility of our purpose. We're called to be witnesses of God's glory. Therefore, we're purposed with encountering His glory in order to be a witness. We're called also to be conformed to the image of Christ and live in and for Him. He is our life. Therefore, His purposes are ours. Paul said, "We know that all things work together for the good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose." Our purpose on a horizontal plane is to accept our responsible reason for being, which is to do good for others. In such unconditional love, we honor the Father, bear witness to the glory of His love, and we do so in the character that Christ's life produces in us. We don't fake it with religion and works. We become it, His reflection, by encountering Him. Jordan Peterson said that we are purposed in life with doing good, no matter what. When we're treated right and enjoy relative ease and comfort, we do good. When we suffer, often unjustly, our life purpose doesn't change. We still are tasked with being who we are according to the will, love, and power of God. We don't have the legitimate right to alter our life purpose by letting injustice change who we are and what our responsibility is. Always remember, circumstances do not change responsibilities. When we start demanding others give us our rights, we cease demanding of ourselves that we be true to why we exist in the world. When a nation does that, it will always crumble. We can't be who we are collectively created to be if we have abandoned our personal purpose for existing. We must live by our responsibilities, not our rights. Doing good is built on one foundation, the highest good of another and of society. That's the definition of love and of morality. It's challenged in the presence of people who have missed the mark. Transgression against their created purpose. You can't do good, love, and exercise responsibility without knowing what makes a person a whole being. You can't let slide the sins that disintegrate a man's soul, his heart's content, and his purpose. When men are led to live a life of ease and comfort, a pleasurable existence above all else, they have forgotten their purpose and will lose their ability to do good and live responsibly. You do good when you are at rest, and you do good when you are victimized. Thus, you don't become a victim just because you're victimized. You don't change who you are just because you've suffered at the hands of an unjust, self-absorbed society. You learn to use suffering to make you better. You can only do good when you have become good. And it's impossible for a man to become good as an island unto himself. There is no one who does good. No, not one, the Bible says. Men need to be fixed. They need a power beyond themselves. And when they try to be self-made men, they will always fail. Always. They may be good athletes, soldiers, or businessmen, but they will never just be good men. It's impossible without Christ setting us free from our sinful nature. If it took the death of the Son of God and his resurrection to deliver us from ourselves, Satan, and sin, how can we possibly think we can now do life right without the atonement of our Creator? Activism is not doing good for anyone. All it accomplishes is saying, we don't like what you're doing, and if enough of us don't like it, and if we can make you miserable, then you should change. Activism demands that the ideology of another group of people be our God. They want us to change because of the power they've gained. They want to convince us that they are right and we are wrong. That will never make a bad person good. The work of wokeism and the BLM is an example of how activism made things worse. Racists became more racist because they were inflamed by hate instead of inspired by love. Jesus accepted the responsibility of the cross. It was the highest form of love. Through it, he gave men the power to be good. He gave his life to us so that we might have the power to be free from missing the mark. He gave us the power to do good when we were victimized just as he was. He gave us a life that no injustice can take away from us, no suffering can destroy, and no fear can stop. If you demand your rights because of what someone has done to you, you declare to the world that they have become your God. You bear witness to the lie that they are stronger than God's love, power, and life. You become exactly what the devil wanted you to become through the injustice. You become the greater injustice to the love of God, his death and resurrection life. You let your circumstances change your responsibility, and you started living like there's no God. My purpose is to do you the highest good. And that includes realizing that it's not my job to be your God. It's not my job to change you. It's not sustainable because I'm not omnipotent. I can't be your highest source of love and life and hope in an unfailing posture. Only God can do that. It does you no good if I try to become your convincer by force, trickery, or shame. My highest good for you is to live Christ and show you by example that it's possible to have peace, hope, and provision no matter what suffering and injustice I encounter. It is to point you towards the life force, the real and primary life that is eternally unfailing. It's to become a road sign for holy love, faithfulness, and rest. This world is a hard place. We will all suffer. We'll be unjustly treated and abused by neighbors and governments. We will by these be brought to a stage where we can view ourselves and be invited to be honest with our own souls. If we choose to accept the pride of self-accomplishment, and if we make vows to be better, do better, and speak better, we will have missed the whole point of being put on that stage. If we refuse our wounded pride and a victim's mentality and dare to look up, we'll escape that darkness. Divorce, alcoholism, sexual deviation, crime, and even suicide mark the future for the ones who will not accept the purpose of responsibility versus rights. When I suffer injustice, I want to get mad at somebody. I want to blame somebody and punish somebody. I start acting like I'm better than somebody else in the world, and I am not. I have the same lack of self-produced goodness in me that others have towards me. I'm still thinking that I'm better than some people, and I am not. Oh, I didn't rob your money out of the bank. I didn't rape your sister, and I didn't make a law that favors socialism or racist diversity that caused you to lose your job. But what good does it do you to go to hell sober? A few may understand that question. I fear not many will, though. So I got back at you for causing me to lose my job. Forgetting, of course, that God is my source, not you. Forgetting, of course, that I started trusting money more than God. but I got back at you. My rights were vindicated. But if I get to heaven, God will perhaps ask me, where's your brother, your neighbor, your fellow American? Why isn't he here? You got your money. I saw to that in the end, but your brother lost his home and his eternity because you didn't show him your God. Your rights were vindicated, but what about my right that my son died for you so that you could show others my kind of love? You were purposed and empowered to do good in the earth, and my promise to you was to take care of you and your rights by myself. When we live for ourselves instead of for others, we miss our primary responsibility to do good to others by loving them no matter what. That's what we want and expect from God. Living for our rights and stroking those with a victim's mentality only drives them further from man's highest good, to love mercy, do justice, and walk humbly with our God. It's not fair how I've been treated as a Christian. It's not fair how the government has and is treating me. It's not fair that I'm disabled after trying to do good for the last 50 years. What? Did I really think that by my doing my best I could earn what I think is fair? Really? Thank God he has been teaching me that my reward is coming because of Christ in me, not me in me. My power to do good and not live as a victim, my energy to continue to tell you about the presence of God, comes from precisely that, the presence of God, by his grace alone. Nothing we suffer means God has forsaken you or me. We live in a world where we will suffer all kinds of wrongs, but there's another day coming. We love when persecuted because we judge God as faithful. I refuse to see just the smallest pinhole of God's glory and live in a world of hardship and then dare to judge God and man. God's love and majesty will be seen on full display for all eternity in heaven, and then we will have enough vision and knowledge to decide on the fairness of God. And it is with that in sight that I am called to the responsibility of doing good in the face of tremendous ugliness towards us and finding my life in Christ alone.
You can unlock the presence of God in your life. There are revelation principles that remove the mountains, keeping us from joy, hope, peace, and purpose when our world gets turned upside down. Look for these words that work with Pastor Hardica as he shares what has helped him when life got hard. And don't forget to check out his book, The Fortress and the Firebrand, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thanks for listening to Life Journeys. Find new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you're new to this series, it begins with the September 16th episode.
When we demand our rights, we cease demanding of ourselves to be true to why we exist. We must live by our responsibilities, not our rights. Doing good is built on the foundation of the highest good of another. That's morality and love. My highest good for you is to live Christ, no matter what injustice arises.